Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive with us. This time we're tackling Septifix. We've had some listeners reach out with questions about it, wanting to know if it really lives up to all the hype.
Yeah, they really don't hold back with their marketing, do they?
Not at all. We've got their brochures and website pulled up here, and they're promising everything from eliminating odors to practically making your septic system self-cleaning.
It sounds a little too good to be true, right?
That's what we're here to find out. We're going to break down their claims and see what the science actually says.
All right, let's dive in. One thing that jumps out is how they use all the scientific language. Oxygenation, billions of bacteria. It's designed to make it sound really technical and advanced.
Definitely. It can be intimidating trying to sort through it all.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. Your septic system is like a little ecosystem. You've got different types of bacteria in there, breaking down the waste, and things like the pH level play a big role in how well that all works.
Right. It's kind of a delicate balance, isn't it?
It is, and that's what makes some of these claims a bit questionable. Septifix says they're adding 10 billion bacterial strains per gram with their product.
10 billion. That sounds like a lot, but does it actually mean anything for your septic system?
That's the big question. We don't even know what kinds of bacteria are already living in there. Throwing in a massive amount of new bacteria could actually mess things up.
Kind of like introducing a bunch of new species into an environment and hoping for the best.
Yeah, you can throw the whole system off.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about this oxygenation thing they keep talking about? They make it sound revolutionary.
Right. But here's the thing. Oxygen is already present in septic systems. All of them use aerators to introduce oxygen because it's important for the bacteria that break down the waste.
So are these Septifix tablets really doing anything special?
Well, they claim their tablets release even more oxygen. The question is how much of that oxygen actually stays in the system and does any good. Septic tanks aren't airtight. They have vents to let gases out.
So some of that oxygen is probably just escaping through the vents, right?
Exactly. It's like trying to inflate a tire with a hole in it. Some air is getting in, but some's just escaping.
Okay, so maybe not as revolutionary as they make it sound. Now they've got a whole section of testimonials on their website, people raving about how Septifix got rid of their odor problems and they haven't had to pump their tank since they started using it.
Testimonials can be really persuasive, but it's important to be skeptical.
Yeah, they're only going to highlight the most positive stories.
Right. And they don't mention any other factors that could be playing a role. Like a change in weather can naturally improve a septic system's performance for a while.
So how do we know those amazing results are actually because of Septifix and not something else?
Ideally, we'd want to see some controlled studies, compare Septifix-treated systems to untreated ones over a long period, measure things like the sludge levels, bacteria counts, and see if there's any contamination in the outflow.
Yeah, that would be convincing. Solid evidence, not just anecdotes.
Now, I noticed they also try to play up the fear factor a bit. They talk about all these dangerous bacteria lurking in your septic tank and the potential for contamination. They even mention a hepatitis A outbreak linked to a malfunctioning septic system.
It's true that a poorly maintained septic system can be a health hazard.
Right.
But serious incidents like that outbreak they mentioned are actually pretty rare.
Okay, so they're kind of cherry-picking the worst-case scenario to
Yeah.
make their product seem more necessary.
Exactly. It's a common tactic.
Well, let's move on to what this supposed peace of mind is going to cost you. They've got a bunch of different packages, the 18-month supply being the best value, of course.
Of course. And they break it down to a monthly cost to make it sound more appealing.
Right, like it's a steal compared to getting your tank pumped.
But pumping isn't always a yearly expense for every system. And Septifix doesn't eliminate the need for pumping entirely, even though they claim to reduce sludge. Yeah, it's important to remember that. And then there are the limited time offers and bundles.
Oh yeah, classic marketing strategies to create a sense of urgency, make you feel like you have to buy now before you miss out.
Right. But we're not going to fall for that. We'll be back in part 2 to take a closer look at how Septifix compares to other septic treatments on the market.
Welcome back. And one of the things you were really curious about was how Septifix stacks up against those other septic tank treatments out there, like the bacteria additives or enzyme products.
Right, because Septifix definitely seems to be positioning themselves as the premium option.
Oh yeah, they're not shy about saying they're the best. They claim their oxygen-releasing tablets and high bacteria count make them superior to those other treatments that just mask the smell temporarily.
Yeah, they make a big deal about tackling the root of the problem. They even have that diagram on their website showing their tablets embedded in the sludge, releasing oxygen bubbles, and creating this happy environment for their bacteria.
It is a very compelling visual. But you have to wonder how much of that actually holds up in the real world of a septic tank.
Right. Let's start with the oxygen release. They say each tablet pumps out something like 10 liters of oxygen, allowing those bacteria to work for up to 90 days. Is that even realistic?
It's tricky. Think about it like this. Imagine you're trying to aerate a pond by dropping in these tablets that fizz and release oxygen. Some of that oxygen is going to dissolve and benefit the ecosystem, but some of it's inevitably going to escape into the air.
Because the pond isn't airtight.
Exactly. And a septic system isn't airtight either.
So even if a Septifix tablet releases a ton of oxygen, some of it might just be going right out the vent.
Exactly. And maintaining that high oxygen level for 90 days straight in an environment like a septic tank is a tall order. Wastewater is constantly flowing in, the bacteria are consuming oxygen as they work. It's a dynamic system.
So it makes you wonder, how much oxygen does a septic system actually need? Is there even such a thing as too much oxygen?
That's a great point. It's all about balance. And then you've got the bacteria count. Septifix brags about having almost 3 times the bacteria of their competitors, 10 billion per gram.
Yeah, that magic number. But is it really the key to a healthy septic system?
Well, it's not just about the quantity, it's about the type of bacteria. Different bacteria are specialized for breaking down different types of waste. Some are better at digesting fats and oils, others are better at cellulose from toilet paper.
So ideally, you'd want a mix of different bacteria to target all those different components.
Exactly. And then you have to think about the byproducts. What happens to the waste after the bacteria break it down?
Oh, good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Ideally, those byproducts should be harmless and easily processed by the system. But some bacterial processes can actually produce gases that contribute to odor problems.
Speaking of odor, Septifix really emphasizes how effective they are at getting rid of those nasty smells. They claim their product reacts with the hydrogen sulfide, which is what causes that rotten egg smell.
And they're right. Oxygen can neutralize hydrogen sulfide. But again, it comes down to whether the Septifix tablets can deliver enough oxygen consistently to make a real difference. And how long does that effect last? Are you going to need to constantly be adding tablets to keep the smell away?
And sometimes odor problems aren't even coming from the tank itself. They could be caused by venting issues or problems with the drain field.
Absolutely. It's like taking cough medicine for a broken leg.
Yeah.
It might mask the symptoms, but it's not addressing the root problem.
Great analogy. So what about clogs? They also claim that Septifix helps prevent clogs and backups by breaking down all the organic waste and keeping things flowing freely.
Right, and that is a big concern for a lot of people. Nobody wants a clogged septic system.
Yeah.
But remember how we talked about pumping still being necessary to remove the sludge?
Yeah.
Well, even if Septifix is breaking down some of the solid waste, it's not going to eliminate the need for pumping altogether.
Right. So you can't just flush anything and everything down the drain and expect Septifix to magically take care of it.
Exactly. Responsible water usage and watching what goes down your drains is still essential no matter what treatments you're using.
They also talk a lot about how Septifix is better for the environment than some other treatments, claiming it reduces the amount of pollutants that get released into the groundwater.
Yeah, and that's definitely something worth considering. But to really evaluate that claim, we'd need to see data comparing Septifix to other treatments and to traditional septic system maintenance.
So we need more evidence. Okay, so it seems like there's a lot to think about when you're comparing Septifix to other products. They make a convincing argument, but as we've been discussing, there are always nuances.
Definitely. And that's why it's so important to do your research, ask questions, and not just take marketing claims at face value.
Right. Well, in part 3, we're going to dive even deeper into the marketing tactics they use, scrutinize that money-back guarantee, and help you figure out if Septifix is really the right choice for you. All right, we're back for the final part of our Septifix deep dive. We've talked about the science, compared it to other treatments, and now it's time to really dissect the marketing machine behind this product. You mentioned feeling a little bombarded by all the promotional stuff they send out.
Yeah, they're very good at what they do. It's interesting how they create that sense of urgency and exclusivity.
Right, like you're missing out if you don't buy now.
Exactly. They use those testimonials, talking about happy families and saving money, and then they hit you with limited supplies or a potential price increase.
It's like, order now before it's too late. And they really push the idea that Septifix is so special you can only get it from their website.
Right. That scarcity tactic is a classic way to get people to buy on impulse. Make a decision based on emotion rather than taking the time to really think it through.
Speaking of feeling secure, let's talk about that money-back guarantee. They make it sound like a no-brainer. If you're not completely satisfied, We'll refund your money, no questions asked. But I have a feeling there's more to it than that.
Oh, there's always more to it.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but then you read the fine print and there are all these stipulations.
Like what?
Oh, you might need proof of purchase, documentation of the problem, maybe even a statement from a plumber saying that Septifix didn't work for you.
So even though they say no questions asked, you might end up jumping through a lot of hoops to get your money back.
Exactly. It's important to remember that marketing is about persuasion, and sometimes the language they use can be a little misleading.
So where does that leave us with Septifix? After all this, is it the revolutionary septic solution they claim to be, or is it all just clever marketing?
That's the big question. We've looked at the science, we've looked at the marketing, we've discussed the potential benefits and the drawbacks. At the end of the day, the decision is up to you. But I would say weigh the evidence carefully. Consider your specific situation, what your needs are, and I think most importantly, talk to a professional.
Yeah, a good plumber can inspect your system, figure out what's really going on, and give you the best advice. Maybe Septifix is the answer. Maybe there's a better solution for you.
And regardless of what treatments you're using, remember that a healthy septic system really starts with you.
What do you mean?
Being mindful of what you're flushing, conserving water, avoiding harsh chemicals, not overloading your system. Those things make a big difference.
Right, the simple things. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Hopefully everyone listening feels a little more informed about Septifix and ready to make an educated decision about their septic system.
Yeah, and remember, always keep asking questions and doing your research. That's what this deep dive is all about.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.